How we doing? Pretty good? Good worship, good prayer time, good day, huh? Okay. Welcome back to our final week of Talkin to Jesus. We are going to get ready to jump into a new series next week called Listening to Jesus. So make sure you join us for that, okay? I'm Aleigha, and I intern here at Southridge Church, one of the interns. And there's some of you who know me, some of you who don't know me, and some of you who know me probably a little too much, if I'm being honest. No. But there's probably one thing that most of you don't know about me, and that is that I was in some serious trouble about 7 years ago. I got into some legal trouble, and I ended up being sentenced to some extensive probation time. I got a little hefty mountain of debt from the courthouse, and then I got a lengthy stay at Recovery Point in Charleston, okay? So I did all of that, completed all the things. Let me rewind. I completed Recovery Point at this time in 2024, okay? So it's 2024, fast forward, and I have kids, I have a husband, I'm interning here. I'm doing pretty good in life. I'm checking all the boxes. It looks real good from the outside, right? So thinking I did everything right, and it looks like I'm free. It looks like I'm living in some freedom, okay? But I was still on probation, and I was only still on probation because I had that debt that was over my head. And I did not want to do what it took to pay that debt. So I wanted freedom, but I didn't want to pay the price for my freedom. And that's just one situation, because even today there is still something in my life that I want freedom from, but I'm not willing to pay the price for that. And that would be therapy, okay? I want emotional health. I want to be a good mom, a better mom. I'm already a good mom. I want to be a better mom. I want to be a better wife. I want to be a better friend. I want to be able to handle triggers that pop up in life, right? I don't want to keep reliving my traumas at times, but I don't want to pay the price for that. I don't want to pay the financial cost. I don't want to put in the emotional effort. And I really don't want to dig into some old wounds that I've had buried. You know what I'm saying? And I want you to think about your life for a second, because there's probably things in your life right now that you want. There's probably things in your life that you desire, but are you willing to pay the price for freedom? Are you willing to do what it takes to be free from those things? Are you willing to put in the effort to get free? So you may want some peace, but you won't pursue the healing, right? There's things in our life that we want, but we won't do what it takes. You want a better marriage, but you might not be willing to work on yourself. You might not be willing to go to the marriage counseling, right? You want to grow spiritually, but you won't make time for God. You want the promotion at work, but you won't take that training. Or maybe you're like me and you want therapy, but in all reality, you don't want to go and put in the effort. See, we all want results, but often we want the results without the cost. We want freedom, but we keep putting it off because freedom has a price. Now let me ask you something a little deeper, and you're probably thinking, okay, Aleigha, this was already a little deep, like you're starting off pretty hot here. But what if it wasn't just about you? What if someone else's freedom depended on what you did? What if their breakthrough started with your obedience? That's a pretty tough cookie to swallow right there. What if all you had to do was be obedient and it would help somebody else? receive some freedom. We're going to be in Acts 12 today, and we are going to I'm going to tell you first a little backstory. There's King Herod. King Herod, he has been persecuting the church, okay? And he just killed James, which is one of Jesus' disciples. He just killed James, and it pleased the Jews. They love seeing it. The Jewish people loved seeing this. So King Herod decides, you know what? Peter, you're next. So he arrests Peter, and he throws Peter in prison. Okay, so Peter is going to be held in prison for this time. And I want to show you through this text what happens to Peter and how it wasn't just what Peter did that led to his freedom, but how others played a role in how they were willing to do whatever it took to see Peter set free. Okay, so if you have your Bibles, turn to Acts 12. If not, you can scan that QR code in front of you, or you can check out our screens because we're going to have the text up there for you too, okay? So Acts 12, verse 6. The night before Peter was to be placed on trial, he was asleep, fastened with 2 chains between 2 soldiers, and others stood guard at the prison gate. Okay, so Peter is in prison, and he's chained between 2 guards. Herod just executed James, and Peter knows that he is next. But if you look at verse 6, there's something kind of crazy that Peter's doing. He's sleeping. He is sleeping. He is fully chained. Both his hands are like this between 2 guards. And then on top of it, he's blocked. There are guards at every single gate that he's at. He is next in line to die. He's going to be executed come morning. And he's asleep? He falls asleep, and this is what his life is coming to an end? Like, it looks like he doesn't have any chance at freedom, right? It looks like he's not going to see next week. It looks like he ain't going to see the next 24 hours, honestly. It looks like he has no chance at freedom. He's completely restricted. Yet, he can take a nap? That's kind of crazy to me. Because if you think about your life, and I think about my life, I think about the chains that I'm tied to, the chains that I'm linked to, right? I think about those chains. I think about the things that have held me back, the things that I've tried to bury. Think about the things that you've tried to hold back, the things that you've tried to bury, the things that you try to leave in the past. These are our invisible chains. They're not literal chains like Peter, but they're chains. And they might be chains that are from guilt, chains of shame, chains of regret, maybe some chains of addiction, chains of trauma, fear. You know how heavy these chains feel, like our invisible chains. They're pretty heavy, right? We carry around this weight, and they're heavy. You know the restriction that they have on you. You know how they restrain you back. I'm going to ask you, while you are in these chains, the chains that you have invisibly linked to you, are you able to rest like Peter? Are you able to rest like Peter? If I'm being honest, I'm not. I ain't resting good. I'm not getting some good Z's. Z's, get it? Sleep? Okay. I had to try to get a little giggle in there, lighten it up. So when I see someone doing something, right, and it's working, like Peter, sleeping in chains, how the heck does he do it? Why did this happen? I want to know. My brain starts to wonder, like, maybe it's because he trusts God. Maybe it's just because he has trust in God that he's able to sleep. But I also wonder, if maybe he can sleep because he knows that there's something happening beyond what he can see. He has faith. And so I wonder what it would look like if we would trust that something was happening beyond what our eyes could see. I wonder if we would be more confident that there were others moving on our behalf if we would be able to rest. Like if we knew that someone else was moving, if someone else was there for us during this, would we be able to rest? Well, I want to keep reading because I want to see the reason why Peter is able to rest. Okay, so Acts 12, 7 through 11, okay? Get ready. Buckle up. Here we go. Suddenly, there was a bright light in the cell, and an angel of the Lord stood before Peter. And the angel struck him on the side to awaken him and said, "Get up, quick, get up." And the chains fell off his wrist. Then the angel told him, "Get dressed and put on your sandals." And he did. "Now put on your coat and follow me," the angel ordered. So Peter left the cell following the angel. But all the time he thought he was having a vision. He didn't realize it was actually happening. They passed the first and second guard post and came to the iron gate leading to the city, and this opened for them all by itself. So they walked through and started walking down the street, and then the angel suddenly left him. Peter finally came to his senses. It's really true, he said. The Lord has sent his angel and saved me from Herod and from what the Jewish leaders had planned to do to me. Okay, an angel appears, and the light fills the room. He's sleeping. And then the angel decides to strike him right on his side to wake him up. He strikes him right on his side to wake him up, okay? And I imagine this angel probably had to strike him pretty hard. Because if you're not waking up from a bright light coming in your cell, someone's going to hit you pretty hard to get you up. Okay? So Peter wakes up. But he doesn't wake up gently, and he doesn't wake up on his own. Take note of that, okay? He doesn't wake up on his own, and he doesn't wake up gently. He gets struck. And I started to think as I'm reading this, how many times have we been so deep in our chains, so numb with our chains, that we needed to be hit to wake up? How many times have we been so stuck, even now, so stuck in our chains, that someone literally needs to hit us to get us to move and wake up? Because if I'm being honest, I think it happens a lot of the time. And I also think that at first, this might look like it's a punishment. Like, hey, he's getting hit. He's getting whacked by this angel, dude. Like, what? That seems like a punishment, right? And in our own lives, when something hits us hard, when we're locked in these chains, it may look like it's a punishment. And so freedom sometimes looks like a punishment, but it's not a punishment. It's God's grace. Sometimes it looks rough, but then we realize it's not. It's God's grace and God's goodness. And so after this happens, Peter, he gets struck, he gets woke up, and then what happens? He gets a to-do list. He gets a honey-do list from the angel. The angel tells him to get up. He says, "Get up, put on your sandals, wrap your cloak around you, and follow me." See, the chains may have been broken, okay? The chains were broken, but guess what? There was still work that needed to be done. Peter still had to do things. Peter still had to do things to reach complete freedom. He still had to walk. In other words, he still had to participate and he had to obey. And this tells me that freedom involves two things. Freedom involves participation, and freedom also involves obedience, okay? Had Peter not moved, had Peter not listened to what the angel told him to do, he might have been right back in his chains. He might have got cuffed back up by them guards. He might have been right back in the chains that he was freed from. And I think too often we are not like Peter. See, Peter was obedient and Peter participated. I think too often that we don't do those things. I think too often we get freed from our chains, but we don't do the work that is necessary to reach complete freedom. We aren't willing to pay the price for our freedom. And I'm guilty of that, as you know from my first story, okay, my second opening story, with the therapy. And I know I'm not the only one that is experiencing something like that. But I want to make one thing clear here. Because if we're reading through this text and we see Peter thinks that this is a dream, he thinks it's a vision. He thinks that this is not really happening. And sometimes freedom feels a little foggy at first until you're already walked through it. So while you're in that freedom process, sometimes it feels a little foggy. It feels like, hey, is this really happening? Is this really real? But until you get out and get to the other side, you might not realize it's real. So, we look at Peter, and we see that it hits his reality, but because he moved, because he obeyed, because he did these things, he was able to escape the imprisonment. He didn't fully understand what was happening, but he obeyed anyway. Okay. And because of his obedience, he was led to freedom. Now that he's free, now that he is out of the chains and he's out on the street, where does he go and what does he do? So if you go to Acts 12, we'll see the rest of the story, okay? So Acts 12, verse 12. We see, when he realized this, he went to the home of Mary, the mother of John Mark, where many were gathered for prayer. He knocked at the door in the gate, and a servant girl named Rhoda came to open it. And when she recognized Peter's voice, she was so overjoyed that instead of opening the door, she ran back inside and told everyone, "Peter is standing at the door." "You're out of your mind," they said. And when she insisted, they decided it must be his angel. Meanwhile, Peter continued knocking. And when they finally opened the door and saw him, they were amazed. Okay, he knew he was in trouble. Peter is out of prison. He's on the streets. He knows that they're going to be coming for him. He is in trouble, but guess what? He knew where he needed to go. He knew that he needed his people, okay? And though he was set free, he still had to have others involved to reach complete freedom. He knew where to find his people. He knew where to go for the people who loved him, who supported him, and who believed in him, okay? He goes straight to the people who will help him out of his trouble. He knew where his people were gathered. That's pretty cool. He had people to go to. He knew where they were. I think it's so cool that they were already gathered together. So Peter gets there. That's me knocking. You hear that? Okay. He's knocking, and a girl answers the door. And as soon as she hears his voice, she runs. She runs to tell the others. And you know what she does? She forgets to open the door. She forgets to open the door. She runs to tell everybody. She's so excited, and they don't even believe her. They don't even believe that it's Peter. This tells me that sometimes the miracle can be right at the door and we forget to open it. We can be so excited about it, so pumped, that we forget to open the door and let it in. Does that make sense? Because I think sometimes we forget that. But Peter, while she's doing all this, he's standing at the door. He keeps knocking. He's still standing there knocking. And thank goodness he did. Because this tells me that sometimes the miracle knocks while we're still stuck in our doubt. He's there knocking and knocking, trying to get in, and they're inside doubting that it's even him. The person who is just in prison and heavenly guarded is at the door, and there is doubt. I think that right now, this is happening in our lives. I believe that there's a miracle at the door. I believe that there is a miracle at your door. And we're doubting that it can even happen. Sometimes freedom can be so shocking that we almost miss it. Sometimes it can seem so unreal, like it could never happen, that we miss freedom. And thank goodness Peter didn't stop knocking, because when they opened the door, they got to see true freedom. They got to see a miracle answered. Now, if you're anything like me, which I think some of you are, you may wonder some things like, well, what led to this? How did this all happen? I want more solid evidence. I want to know what led to this. And so, if you would be so kind to go back, okay, we're going to go back verses. We're going to go back to verse 5, okay? And verse 5 tells us that, so Peter was kept in prison, but the church was earnestly praying to God for him. Peter was kept in prison, but the church was earnestly praying to God for him. See, that but in there, that but is so big. Gosh. Well, they're going to clip that one. I'll never live that one down. Shoot. All right. Can I even come back from that? Gosh, dang it. No, I can't even say the word but now. So it seems like it's a little word, right? It doesn't seem like a big deal. But if you look at the beginning of the verse, it says Peter was kept in prison. There is a challenge. There's a problem. Peter is the one who's leading these churches. He is a church leader, and he's in prison. This but means there's about to be a change of events. It means that there is something about to take place. There's a new direction about to occur, okay? And that is that the church responds by praying. The church responds by praying. Because the church prayed, because they were praying, Peter was set free. Because if you look, it's in verse 5, but it's also whenever they were gathered at the house, they were praying. They prayed when he was in prison, and they prayed while he was released, and they didn't even know it. The church was praying, not casually, not passively, but earnestly, which means intentionally, desperately. They weren't just hoping, they were interceding, okay? They were interceding on his behalf, and they did not stop praying. They kept praying, they kept praying, they kept praying, and because they prayed, Peter had peace in prison, an angel showed up, chains fell, the gates opened, Peter found the community, and the miracle showed up at the front door, and ultimately, Peter was freed. And Peter's freedom wasn't about how strong he was, it was about how faithfully the church prayed. His freedom had not much to do with him because I don't think it would have even started if the church wasn't praying. If there wasn't intercessory prayer happening on his behalf. See, Peter couldn't have freed himself. Peter could not have set himself free. So while his hands were tied, the church was using their hands to pray. His hands are tied, they're going to use theirs. This is evidence to me that your prayers could be the reason someone else walks free. Your prayers have a lot more power than what you think. Your prayers matter, and your prayers could be somebody's breakthrough. See, if you don't believe this, I'm going to take you back again to my 7 years. So 7 years ago, it's been over 7 years ago now, but 7 years ago, I'm in literal chains. I'm incarcerated. I am in jail, and I'm facing prison time. But because my mom prayed, my grandmother prayed, their churches prayed for me, and because the Christian community prayed for me, I am here today. I was set free. I honestly know without a shadow of a doubt, if it was not for those prayers, I wouldn't be here. The power of prayer is unreal. Our prayers lead to freedom. Our prayers can lead to our freedom, but also somebody else's. I think too often we don't take time to pray for freedom for our peers, our friends. I think too often we don't share our needs with others. We don't share our chains with other people. And so we don't know what they need. What can you guys do? Now that we've heard this message, now that we know that this is evidence that prayer can set people free, what do we do with this information? Where do we go? I know that there's people in here right now that are in chains. I know it. There's people in here that are trapped in their chains. And I want you to know that there's people here in this church that want to pray with you. There's people in this church that believe that your chains can be broken through prayer. There's people in here who are hanging onto chains emotionally and spiritually. There's a community of people in here that want to help. If you don't know Jesus, I want you to know that he has already taken all your chains to the cross with him. He can offer you a freedom that you've never known before. A freedom that will help you to walk free forever. A different kind of freedom. I want to ask you guys something. Are you carrying chains that prayer can break? Are you willing to do what it takes to be freed from those chains? Are you willing to share that with others? Are you willing to obey what God tells you to do when he releases those chains? Because once they're released, we still got steps to take. We see that with Peter's great escape. Are you willing to do what it takes to walk free? Are you willing to pay that price? Are you willing to share with others what is actually happening in your life? What you are holding on to? I want you guys to think about someone else in your life too, who may be trapped in chains, who may be holding on to the things of their past. What can you do to help them? Pray for them, because prayer leads to freedom. And if we want to experience that freedom, we have to pray. Pray for each other and pray together. I know, a little heavy, a little crazy. It's okay. I know that God is going to move in each of your lives. I know that you can be freed from these chains. Because Peter was. Because I was. And now you can too. All you have to do is come forth. We have altars. We'll have people up here that want to pray with you. You can grab your friend, your neighbor, your cousin, your uncle, your mother, your husband, your boyfriend. Come up and pray together. Share with each other. Allow each other to pray for each other. You don't have to walk this alone. Let today be the day that you do this. Experience some freedom. Take the first step.